He picked up the necklace and held it up to the light, his expression full of interest. Seeing his masterpiece after so long brought him a sense of renewal. Oh, that's true. This is the work of this great body. Yes, I understand. I brought you here to confirm it. Stay here for now and await your punishment. I'll take care of your cat for now. Don't worry, I'll take good care of him. Roderick turned around coldly, as if he had seen everything she had to offer. But then, Suki's words stopped him in his tracks. But this was the only one? My masterpieces were not one, but two. What does that mean? Because, a woman my age, with bright red eyes and a fierce look, asked me to make a spare one. Suki frowned as if trying to remember something from long ago. As far as Roderick knew, there was only one ferocious-looking woman with red eyes. Capella heir, not yet captured. If he still had the necklace, there might be a way to find out its whereabouts. Is it possible to track that object? When Roderick asked in a serious voice, Suki opened her mouth with a slightly excited voice. Track that thing? It is a very tempting story. Let's try it. Sure, I'm a genius, so I'm sure it will be easy. She seemed a little excited by intellectual curiosity, like a child discovering a fun toy. You seem to be having fun with this situation. Roderick seemed a little upset. He was fed up with Suki's attitude, who seemed to find any situation simply amusing. Well, of course it's interesting, but that's not the only reason. If you ask me this, doesn't it mean that you haven't caught that woman yet? I also hope that you can help me atone for my sins, even if just a little. Suki shouted in an unusually embarrassed voice. His expression revealed a sincere reflection on his past. Hang on a minute. I will bring you some magic tools that you can use. Roderick left the prison with a somewhat complicated expression. He planned to quickly go to the mansion to find the magic tool detector that Candace had made and sent him. He thought it would be easier to have something to reference than to start from scratch with nothing. And Roderick, who returned to the prison with the magical tool, freed Suki from her magical bonds using the method Isidore had told him. Don't think about useless things, and use your magic to track that thing. And don't forget I have Pumpkin with me. He had a vague feeling that she wouldn't do anything stupid, but he slyly threatened and handed Candace's invention to Suki. She looked at the new invention with a serious expression, eager to discover what mechanism it used. After looking around for a while, Suki made a voice that seemed impressed by the ingenuity of whoever had created this magical tool. I don't know who it is, but whoever created this tool seems to be quite skilled. Of course not as much as me. Roderick shrugged, already used to Suki's way of speaking. This was equivalent to acknowledging Candace's superiority. So, can you track it? Yeah. Wait a minute. I think I can modify it in about 10 minutes. He responded in a nonchalant tone and quickly modified the detector on the spot. Suki was actually a fairly skilled magician, although she had used her powers for evil. Sure, it took a little longer than the promised 10 minutes, but he delivered the completed tool to Roderick in a matter of hours. Here it is. This scorpion in the center will circle in the direction of the woman. It's like a compass. The closer it gets, the bigger it gets. Thank you for your effort. Roderick, slightly surprised by his abilities, picked up his magic tools and turned around. He was just eager to catch Capella as soon as possible. Wait. Do you forget something? I mean the magical restriction. Then, Suki twisted her wrist and grabbed Roderick, forgetting to restrain her magic again. Oh, that's true. Roderick looked at her perplexed as he replaced the magical restraints on Suki's wrists. Then Suki asked, stammering in embarrassment, why do you do that? Wouldn't it be better for you if I forgot about the magical bindings? You could probably escape the prison using magic. At Roderick's question, Suki blinked silently. I'm not going to do that. Well, I did sin, so shouldn't I pay the price? It was an answer that made him think a lot. At least you are a person who knows how to reflect. With these last words, Roderick staggered out of the prison. Laura followed the guard out of the prison with swollen eyes. Her face was swollen from constantly crying about her situation. Among the people in the other rooms, there were incredible rumors that Uncle Cloud had become a traitor and had lost contact with his mother. She herself was captured for her participation in the rebellion, so it was clear that she would not be saved. Tears did not stop flowing due to the negative thoughts that assailed her. Happens. The guard opened the big lock on the iron door, turned around and spoke to Laura. His expression was very abrupt. The guy must be in a sorry state. She grabbed the cold doorknob and felt tears welling up in her eyes again. She had been thinking that ever since the guard brought her out of the prison, promising to let her meet Cloud. Oh, it looks like my uncle is in critical condition. If the rumors of his desertion were true, it was clear that he had revealed his comrade's name under brutal torture. When he was about to die from the unbearable torture, they pretended to do him a favor and allowed him to see his niece. Perhaps, if she opened that door, her uncle would be waiting for her in such a miserable state that he couldn't bear to open his eyes. But their predictions were spectacularly wrong. There were no signs of torture on Cloud's body as he sat inside the cell. Of course, he looked more emaciated than Laura remembered, but compared to the other prisoners visible through the bars, he seemed very healthy. Even the prison facilities seemed much nicer than what she was used to, as if she was receiving some kind of special treatment. There were no handcuffs or shackles in the room, so he could move freely. Laura, your face looks very hurt. Cloud, seeing his niece's face, ran towards Laura with a worried expression, trying to caress her thin cheek. But Laura, with a look of betrayal, avoided his touch. I really thought my uncle couldn't help it. I thought that if it weren't for that, you wouldn't have betrayed us. How is it possible? Cloud's mouth was open, but he couldn't say anything as he watched his niece curse him, calling him a traitor. Because he was a traitor. He betrayed his lord, his family, and sold those who were once his comrades. All with the sole purpose of relieving the heavy burden of guilt that overwhelmed him. So he had no choice but to keep quiet when his niece criticized him for being a traitor. Why the hell did you do that? Did you want to live alone that much? Tell me. For more than 10 years, our entire family has worked with the sole goal of reviving our family. Laura let out a scream between sobs. She felt like the betrayal was destroying her inside. He couldn't shake the vague idea that if he hadn't sold the names of his not yet captured collaborators, they might have brought in troops and changed the situation. My uncle destroyed my last hope. Why? Laura collapsed on the cold prison floor and burst into tears. It was as if she had returned to the days when her father had died and she had been banished overnight, from noble to traitor. Hearing a scream from inside the room, a startled guard opened the iron door and entered, but Cloud shook his head as if he was fine. The guard shrugged and closed the iron door again. He figured it was a family matter, so they would take care of it. Cloud simply watched his niece cry in pain. He was afraid that trying to clumsily comfort her would only lead to more rejection. And after a while, Laura, who had already cried enough, stopped crying and wiped her face with her dirty sleeve. After coming to his senses, he decided to listen to Cloud's story. As much as she hated him, he was her only uncle. Tell me. Seriously, why did you do that? It was painful. At his niece's question, Cloud opened his mouth in a weak voice. Every day, living felt so agonizing it was terrifying. Having to serve as a master to allies who believed their positions had been taken from them based solely on baseless victimization, raising an innocent girl as a murder weapon to deceive and murder her own father. The fact that she had to do what was wrong, that she had no choice. At first, he started off in an apathetic tone, like his soul had been sucked out, but as he unburdened himself, Cloud seemed to get more and more agitated. To survive, for the family, and for you, my brother's daughter. Every day, I had to justify my immoral behavior, even though I knew it was wrong. That wasn't living.